They have signed Andy Dalton at quarterback to a 1 year, $10 million deal. They obviously failed at Deshaun. They failed at getting Russell. And they made sure that their star wide receiver and Allen Robinson did not leave, and they franchise tagged him. Now, Allen Robinson has yet to sign the tenure, and Allen Robinson's camp has said that they will take their time in signing said deal because he could choose to hold out like Le'Veon Bell did a few years back and just say, I'm not signing it. I don't want to be here anymore. I don't think Alshon. I don't think that Allen's going to do that, but I don't think he wants to play with Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton's 33, 34 years old. He didn't have the best season of his life in Dallas last year. Granted, Dallas's offensive line was hurt. Andy Dalton was inconsistent at best. He turned it on a little bit towards the end of the season. He showed some flashes that he can do it. But I mean, if you couldn't do it with the weapons that Dallas had, I don't know how you're going to do it with lesser weapons in Chicago. So I got to get your opinion on this, man. What the hell are the Bears thinking, bro? This is literally their GM and Matt Nagy's last year at a winning season, and your answer is signing the red rifle. Is this desperation, or do they not care anymore?
I think that they just moved on. They just moved on from the possibility of getting either Russell Wilson or Deshaun Watson when those trade rumors were circulating, and they never materialized. Look, when you look at Chicago at this point, I think Ryan Pace should probably be fired as general manager because it has just been he's been a model of inconsistency the last couple of years. He has let pretty much all the Bear fans in Chicago and around the country down simply because they just have a very difficult time getting decent prospects to really prosper in their system. And they have really swung and missed on some really big names. I mean, to go back to when they drafted Mitchell Trubisky, that was the same draft class that Patrick Mahomes is in. And look at the success that Mahomes had compared to Mitchell Trubisky. Like you mentioned, Mitchell Trubisky is probably a few years away from being completely out of the league and a complete bust from that draft class. I remember when they had Jay Cutler, they did have some years of relevance. They did have that one. They had that one NFC championship appearance against the Packers at home. I think Jay Cutler was dealing with some sort of injury. He didn't really play that well that game. And ever since, it's been a revolving door of talent at the quarterback position. They gave Mike Glennon back, I believe in 2014, 2015, a boatload of money to be their starting quarterback. He was a complete waste of money. I believe he got that contract simply because of how well he played in Tampa the year before, and he never materialized anything significant with Chicago. It's just
Kyle Orton was over there.
Yeah, I don't think anything really happened with him either. So
No.
just looking at the way that the Bears have been the last couple of years, they're not going anywhere. They're not going anywhere. And I don't really expect them to go anywhere with Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton, as a backup with the Cowboys last year, was mediocre at best. I would say mediocre because, look, Andy Dalton was a pretty solid quarterback when he was with Cincinnati. Definitely had some good years when they got into the playoffs a couple years, especially towards kind of like the last maybe like 3 or 4 years he was with Cincinnati. But like the last year or two, specifically with the Cowboys, and maybe the last year he was with Cincinnati, he has been really going downhill. And I think Chicago made this move simply because that was probably the only guy that they could probably realistically go after at this point. I don't think that they were going to make some sort of trade to go after Tua, because I know there have been rumors about Tua maybe being traded, but the only mention of those trade rumors with Tua were in regards to Deshaun Watson in Houston.
Swapping, yeah.
So I think Chicago just looked at the situation here and said Andy Dalton's probably the best guy in the market because Ryan Fitzpatrick, he just signed with Washington a few days ago. It just, the quarterback market is really thin right now, and that was the guy that they ended up going with. And just the way that the Bears are going to look this season, I think the season is already over, and we haven't even started a game yet. And it really sucks because I think that Bears defense is pretty good. That defense with Khalil Mack leading the way, that defense has held their own and keeps them in games, but it's just the offense. their inability to materialize anything significant as far as points go or anything just consistent through the passing game. I mean, their running game is okay, but it's inconsistent at times too.
Yeah, David Montgomery had a great second half to the year, but I mean,
It's still
you're running the ball when you're down 14. What does that do for you?
Yeah, so it's just until they get this quarterback situation squared away with, and nothing's going to happen with Chicago. And it's just, I mean, when you're looking at Andy Dalton being the starting quarterback, and they've essentially said that he's got the starting job as of right now, Chicago's probably going to go 6-10 next year, maybe 5-11, just because Andy Dalton is probably going to get that team to a mediocre record at best. I don't see a lot of decent prospects or any. I hate to be a downer here. I don't see any really positivity looking forward with Chicago next year. I think the Packers are head and shoulders above them in the division. Minnesota's probably second. And then Chicago and Detroit are going to be fighting for that third spot. And Detroit is going through a major rebuild right now. So I think Chicago's probably the third best team simply because Detroit is completely starting over.
And you heard about that rumor, right? Or that trade that happened that they got Michael Brocker or whatever.
Oh yeah, that the Rams traded Michael Brockers to Detroit. Yeah,
and he's the one that said, "Yo, we definitely leveled up when we got rid of Jared Goff, and now Jared Goff is going back again."
Ironic, right?
No, that's funny. Like that's great.
It's just funny how the world turns the results out that way. But
yeah, you ain't lying.
But I hate to be a downer on Chicago, but Chicago's not going anywhere next year. You and I both know that.
Yeah, at least we don't think so, guys. You know, obviously we have no future insight. We are not gurus. We're not psychics. These are just
all of our things. I'll claim to be. Listen. I'll die on this hill if I need to, but I'm pretty certain that Chicago's going nowhere next year. That's not going to happen next year.
Hey, man, they still got Big Dick Nick back there, man. You never know.
And no, because they've already said that Andy Dalton's going to be the starter.
Yeah, but if Andy suck or Andy get hurt or knocked out again, who's got to step up? The guy you paid $22 million to on the bench.
If Andy Dalton sucks, you really think Nick Foles is going to go in there and change things?
I didn't say change things, but I mean, bro, you paying him $20 million to ride the bench. You better play his ass.
I doubt it. I mean, Andy Dalton's going to probably put up typical numbers, probably somewhere around 200, 250 yards passing a game. He'll probably throw a touchdown here and there, but he's probably going to throw one or two picks on average a game. I mean, probably one pick a game, maybe two. I don't know. It's just
it really depends.
But it's like Andy Dalton, bro. Like,
and they're looking for suitors for Anthony Miller, and they tried to get rid of Kyle Fuller. Like high key, they might be in a rebuild mode. High key.
I mean, look, you got Allen Robinson, and Allen Robinson is probably leery at the prospect of Andy Dalton throwing the ball to him. And then don't you have Javon Wims, the guy that had that wide open touchdown where Mitchell dropped a dime to him and went right through his arms?
Isn't that also the guy that punched Chauncey Gardner? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what you got to.
We'll see what happens.
It's not a rosy picture in Chicago. So
no, they got a lot to worry. They got a lot to worry about, especially with Matt Nagy being on not the hot seat. It's like they lose their first game by a lot. He's fired. Like, I don't even think they waste time.
I'll say this, though. Depending on how many fans they bring into the stadium, if it goes south in that first game, they are going to light them up.
Oh, yeah. It's a big city, bro. You know how the markets go in big cities like New York and LA and Chicago. Bro, they don't fucking play. They don't care. They will boo your ass right out of the stadium. They don't give a shit.